Howard gets it in, but it's knocked away by Lexie Hull. Hull with the steal. And the Indiana Fever, beset by major injuries all year long, are on the doorstep of making the semifinals.
Call it what it was, a gut-check challenge of the highest order. The Indiana Fever entered Game 3 of the WNBA playoffs against the Atlanta Dream with their backs against the wall, 6 players down, reeling from controversial officiating in Game 2, and facing a win-or-go-home scenario with absolutely no margin for error. But instead of folding, they rose to the moment with grit, heart, and the kind of fire that defines championship DNA. Kelsey Mitchell took control down the stretch with fearless drives and clutch buckets, Aaliyah Boston anchored the paint with relentless energy and physicality, and Lexie Hull came through with the defining play of her young career, an exclamation point on a night the Fever refused to let slip away. The result? A hard-fought victory and a ticket to the WNBA Semifinals for the first time since 2015. Now the question is louder than ever. Was this just a flash of brilliance under pressure, or the true turning point that signals the return of Indiana Fever basketball to the league's elite? However you see it, one thing's certain, this team isn't backing down from anyone. Let us know in the comments how proud you are of this squad, and let's keep this momentum rolling. Let's go, Fever.
We've just been through so much this season, giving ourselves another chance in Game 3. Emotions are high.
This is a group that's confidence has really never wavered. This group has continued to show their heart, their character, night in and night out.
I think we all piggyback off each other within our group and our organization.
We've been in every kind of situation you can imagine, and we've been able to find ways to put ourselves in position to win, and this will be no different.
Somebody has to lose and somebody has to win.
Imagine enduring nearly a decade without a single playoff series win, a drought that goes far beyond the numbers. It becomes a shadow hanging over the franchise, a lingering ache for the fans, and a constant weight on every player who puts on that jersey. The last time the Indiana Fever advanced this far, Tamika Catchings was still the soul of the team, Natasha Howard was a promising rookie, and Stephanie White was guiding the squad during her first run as head coach. That was back in 2015, a completely different era for the WNBA. Since then, the league has evolved, stars have come and gone, and the Fever had to fight through years of rebuilding, disappointment, and near misses. So when they took the court for Game 3 against the Atlanta Dream, it wasn't just another playoff matchup, it was history staring them down, daring them to prove they belonged again. And they answered with heart, toughness, and a performance that may very well mark the rebirth of a proud franchise.
Talked about the desperation before Game 2 on Tuesday. Just how does that carry over into tonight?
Well, I think anytime that you're a win or go home situation, there's desperation. And so it has to carry over. You know, we're in the same situation. Our back is against the wall. We got to come out and we've got to play with that sense of urgency. We've got to play with that hunger. We've got to value every single possession and every single opportunity.
The urgency of the moment was magnified by the brutal reality of their roster. Just look at the names missing. Caitlin Clark, the heartbeat of the offense, sidelined. Sophie Cunningham, a relentless competitor, out. Sydney Colson, the vocal veteran and emotional leader, unavailable. Add to that Chloe BBY, Ari McDonald, and Damaris Dantas, all shelved with injuries. That's not just a few gaps to fill, that's the core of their experience, production, and leadership stripped away in one crushing sweep. What remained was a team held together by sheer will, forced to dig deeper than ever before. This wasn't just a playoff game anymore, it was a defining moment, a do-or-die scenario with a roster that had no margin for error. From the outside, expectations had vanished. No one believed they could win. Pundits dismissed them. Fans braced for the worst. But within that locker room, something shifted. With the pressure often backs against the wall, they found clarity. And with it, freedom. Free from the weight of expectation, they played for each other, not for headlines. They fought not because they were favored, but because it was the only option left. And sometimes, that's when the most unexpected, unforgettable stories are written.
Now this one on Lexie Hall got me riled up because this was early on in the game, and this was probably the best defense that Lexie could have played. If you watch this play here, Ryan Howard is going down, Lexie Hall's guarding her, Ryan goes behind her back, Lexie doesn't touch her because she's backpedaling the whole time, she has her hands straight up. Like, this is really good defense that Lexie played here.
And who could forget how Game 1 unfolded? It was a masterclass in frustration, a relentless parade of questionable whistles, momentum-shattering fouls, and a controversial technical slapped on their head coach at a pivotal moment. Every call seemed to tilt the floor beneath them, and the sense of injustice wasn't subtle. It radiated through the arena, seethed from the sidelines, and even through television screens. Fans at home could feel it. But that sting didn't fade. It simmered. Those players didn't just move on. They held on to the bitterness, pocketed the disrespect, and transformed it into fuel. Game 2 wasn't just about advancing, it was about redemption. It was about proving that their fight wasn't finished, that the story wouldn't be written by a whistle or decided by circumstances beyond their control. They came back with a fire that couldn't be officiated, ready to reclaim what had been taken and restore the pride they felt had been stripped away.
Indiana Fever are heading to the semifinals.
See, driving to the foul line and the paint, lays it in. Sims crossover left to right, gets into the paint, layup, good.
Inside, Boston.
The tone was set long before the opening tip. In the pregame interviews, you could feel the weight of what was coming. Kelsey Mitchell appeared composed, laser-focused, like someone who already understood the burden she was about to carry, and embraced it. Aaliyah Boston, soft-spoken but steady, radiated a quiet confidence, ready to anchor the paint in a battle that would demand everything she had. Across from them stood a fully healthy Atlanta squad, energized by home-court advantage and the roar of a Gateway Center Arena crowd eager to shut the Fever down for good. On paper, the odds leaned hard in Atlanta's favor. But Indiana wasn't just facing the dream, they were confronting years of disappointment, the sting of 6 injured teammates, and a lingering narrative that said they weren't ready, weren't built to rise when it mattered. And in that pressure cooker, they made a choice. They leaned into the storm. They picked grit over doubt, fight over fear. Which leaves us with the bigger question, could a handful of defining moments, from players who refused to fold, finally flip the script, and turn all those years of waiting into the beginning of something new?
The Jones throws it up.
No good! Game over! And the Fever are moving on!
The Fever found themselves staring down the kind of moment that doesn't just decide games, it defines entire seasons. Late in Game 3, with the scoreboard tilted against them and the deafening roar of nearly 4,000 Atlanta fans crashing around them, every single possession carried the weight of everything they'd endured. A year marked by grit, injury, and constant questions had boiled down to these final, breathless minutes. The crowd wasn't just loud, it was relentless, trying to bury Indiana beneath a wave of doubt and momentum. But the Fever didn't break. They didn't blink. Instead, they leaned on the very players who had carried them through the chaos all year. And one by one, those players answered. They stepped into the pressure, into the fire, and refused to back down. What unfolded wasn't just a basketball game, it was a statement. A refusal to let the moment, the noise, or the narrative write their ending.
Has picked up her second foul, so Hillman and Gray each with 2. Mitchell over the Boston screen.
And that was tough, her hands. But going back to that ball screen here, little movement in the first part of that screen by Aaliyah Boston.
Mitchell, man,
she is so good.
Kelsey Mitchell was the unwavering heartbeat of Indiana's offense, the steady pulse that kept them alive when the game threatened to slip away. Atlanta came in with a clear plan, crowd her at every turn, load the paint, send help the moment she touched the ball. And still, Mitchell found a way, dropping 24 points in a game where space was a luxury. Even more impressive, 19 of those points came before halftime, a blistering first-half surge that kept the Fever afloat in hostile territory. But it wasn't just the scoring. When the Dream tightened the screws, cutting off her lanes and challenging every touch, Mitchell pivoted, dishing out assists, contesting shots, doing whatever was needed to keep the momentum from collapsing. She took hits, absorbed pressure, and never disappeared. Her relentless aggression became a signal to her teammates, "We're still in this." And they fed off it, drawing strength from her refusal to fold. In the chaos of playoff basketball, Kelsey Mitchell didn't just show up, she led.
Attacking from the outside and now the inside. And Mitchell's been quiet for a while. Not anymore. Mitchell over to Boston. Again, the shot clock winding down. Mitchell, tough shot off the bounce to get around Jones.
2 steps behind the 3-point line and the dribble handoff for Kelsey Mitchell.
Inside the paint, Aaliyah Boston was quietly carving out a narrative of her own, one built on toughness, intelligence, and sheer will. Matched up against the physically imposing Brianna Jones, Boston found herself in a relentless low-post battle, absorbing contact on nearly every possession. On paper, Jones held the size and strength advantage, but Boston didn't flinch. Instead, she countered with precision, impeccable timing, smart positioning, and a rapidly maturing sense of how to win those small interior battles before the ball even arrived. She sealed early, held her ground, and forced Jones into uncomfortable spots, all while maintaining the calm, poised demeanor that has become her signature. It wasn't flashy, but it was fundamental. It was effective. And most importantly, it was exactly what Indiana needed, an anchor in the storm, steady and unshakable in the game's most bruising territory.
Rusha just 4 of 16 from the floor in game 2. That's terrific, Paul. Into Boston. Beautiful.
Her stat line, 14 points, 12 rebounds, 6 assists, only tells part of the story. What those numbers don't capture is the grit behind every rebound fought for in traffic, the vision and timing behind every assist that extended the Fever's possessions when they needed it most. She wasn't merely holding her ground, she was demonstrating a poise and maturity far beyond her years, quietly anchoring the heart of an undersized, undermanned lineup. In a game where every inch mattered, her presence was a steadying force, a constant that kept Indiana in the fight when the odds were stacked against them.
Atlanta has not been good. 40%. Maybe a little higher than that, 45.
Indiana electing not to call a timeout. Boston almost gave it away. Into Boston for the lead. She hits it. Indiana goes up.
Boston gets it. Mitchell is denied, but then Jordan Canada falls. Bree Jones almost gets it, but that's a second defender that's gone down, and Bree Jones.
Then there was Natasha Howard, whose impact transcended highlight reels and flashy plays. Her value was found in the relentless hustle, the extra possessions she created out of seemingly nothing. Balls that looked like they were slipping away to the Dream's guards somehow snapped back into Indiana's control, all because of Howard's length, anticipation, and tireless energy. She was the kind of player who made the intangible tangible, tipping the scales with sheer effort and heart, proving that sometimes the most crucial contributions come from the grind no one else sees.
And Aaliyah Boston has to really body up with Bree Jones in that situation.
Natasha Howard slashing in. Sims got around the Ryan Howard reach to find Natasha Howard.
The court, Odyssey Sims, has 7 points, 3 assists. She's looking to attack.
Odyssey Sims brought a different kind of spark, an aggressive edge that Atlanta struggled to contain. She attacked the rim with fearless determination, driving hard into defenders, absorbing contact without hesitation, fully aware that each push into the lane had the potential to shift the momentum in Indiana's favor. Scoring 16 points and dishing out 8 assists, her impact was remarkable, especially considering she hadn't been with the roster all season. Her ability to adapt quickly, coupled with her on-the-fly leadership, made all the difference. In a hostile environment where composure was critical, Sims delivered both grit and creativity, injecting the energy and calm the team desperately needed.
a complete skill set in all that she can do.
It's the first miss for Atlanta as Howard could not get it to go. Odyssey Sims, this is what head coach Stephanie White wants from Odyssey. Ray with 10 points so far. Sims dribbled right into trouble and was able to score and get fouled.
And then there's Brianna Turner, a player who might not have been a regular staple in every game during the season, but on this night, she became absolutely indispensable. With a keen defensive presence, she blocked passing lanes, contested shots with timing and precision, and anticipated plays before they even unfolded. When fatigue and foul trouble started to threaten Indiana's rotations, Turner stepped up and became the team's backbone. Her well-earned reputation as a professional who always stays ready was on full display. Without demanding the spotlight or needing the ball in her hands, she quietly did the dirty work, embodying selflessness that created space for her teammates to shine. In moments like these, it's clear how vital role players like Turner are in carrying a team through adversity.
Another one of the signees because of injuries in the game. As we approach a minute to go, Aerial Powers in.
The bench.
All the injured players to not just cheerlead, but also to give advice to all the newbies. Big block by Powers.
Good help side by Aerial Powers.
Aerial Powers was the team's spark plug, a force whose impact went far beyond the limited minutes she played. Every time she stepped on the court, Indiana's energy shifted. She dove fearlessly for loose balls, battled through screens, and pushed the pace, injecting life into every possession. Her intensity was contagious. Teammates instinctively raised their level simply by watching how she carried herself. Hustle can be tough to quantify in a box score, but Powers made it impossible to ignore. On defense, players communicated louder, the bench buzzed with renewed energy, and the fragile momentum that can slip away in moments felt sturdier, more resilient, whenever she was on the floor. She was the heartbeat of effort, the kind of player who changes a game without needing a single highlight. Possession by possession, Indiana fought their way back into the game. The noise inside Gateway Center Arena was deafening, loud, shrill, and relentless, but the Fever met it with unwavering focus. They worked the court with fierce determination, stringing together stops on defense and scraping out points from every possible angle. What became clear as the clock wound down was that this team wasn't leaning on a single superstar to carry them through. Instead, they were weaving together heart, playmaking, defense, and grit from every corner of their roster. And just when the game seemed destined to be decided by razor-thin margins, the spotlight unexpectedly turned to a player who had struggled all night, waiting, biding her time, now with the ball in her hands and a chance to make history. For Lexie Hull, Game 3 was a lesson in resilience. Her worst shooting night threatened to overshadow everything. Open looks rattled out, jumpers clanged off the rim, and miss after miss piled up like a mountain she couldn't climb. You could see the frustration simmer beneath her calm exterior, the rhythm that usually comes so naturally just out of reach. For someone whose game thrives on knocking down shots and stretching defenses, it must have felt like the court was closing in around her. But Hull didn't let the struggle define her. She stayed locked in on defense, hustling, digging, and waiting patiently for her moment to turn the tide.
6% in the first two games.
Good help by Alicia Gray there on Howard.
Hull.
With under 30 seconds left on the clock, all the frustration from that tough shooting night suddenly hung in the balance, ready to be erased, or defined forever. The Fever were down by a single point, tension tightening with every tick of the shot clock. Then, as if fueled by sheer will, Kelsey Mitchell exploded toward the basket with her trademark speed, slicing through the defense to lay the ball in with a perfect assist from Aaliyah Boston. Suddenly, the game was back to a one-possession battle. The Dream responded, but Indiana stood their ground, refusing to fold under pressure. On the next possession, after swinging the ball around the perimeter, Lexie Hull found herself with another open look, a chance to rewrite her night. This time, she didn't hesitate. She drained the three-pointer cleanly, a shot that was more than just points on the board. It was a lifeline, a surge of hope and energy that breathed new life into her team as they headed into the final, decisive moments.
A high ball screen has worked for Kelsey Mitchell, but that time, she gives it up to Hull. And how about that shot by Lexie Hull?
But the game was far from over. With just 7.4 seconds left on the clock, Atlanta prepared to inbound the ball, their entire season hanging on that single possession. One precise pass, one clean look, and the Dream could snatch away everything Indiana had fought for. The crowd expected the ball to find its way safely into Atlanta's hands, an almost inevitable finish. But in a split second, Lexie Hull saw it differently. Reading her defender's eyes, anticipating the perfect angle, she launched herself forward without a moment's hesitation. Her hands met the ball cleanly in midair, stealing possession away and delivering a game-saving play that sent shockwaves through the arena. In that instant, Hull didn't just make a defensive stop, she became the architect of Indiana's chance at victory.
Howard gets it in, but it's knocked away by Lexie Hull. Hull with the steal. And the Indiana Fever, beset by major injuries all year long, are on the doorstep of making the semifinals.
That single play changed everything. Suddenly, the Fever weren't just clawing to survive, they were charging toward the WNBA Semifinals for the first time since 2015. Odyssey Sims added the finishing touch by calmly sinking a free throw to seal the win, but it was Lexie Hull's steal that will forever live in the hearts of fans. What had seemed like a frustrating, off-shooting night for Hull transformed into the defining moment of the entire series. But when your team calls on you, you rise and deliver. That's exactly what Hull did, and why her game-saving steal will be forever linked to breaking a decade-long drought. From that pivotal moment to the roar of celebration that followed, everything shifted. Indiana was finally back, and the future suddenly looked full of promise.
Indiana Fever are heading to the semifinals of the WNBA for the first time in 10 years. Kelsey Mitchell said, all that we've got, and we have all that we need, cobbling together this roster, and here they are, about to be in the Final Four.
What you thought was impossible is possible. A team that has been devastated by injury, rallying on the road. One more time.
Picture the Indiana Fever locker room after that final buzzer, a space suddenly bursting with the release of 10 years of waiting, 10 years of questions, and a quiet frustration finally shattered. Players who had carried the weight and scars of losing seasons now smiled with the wide-eyed joy of kids discovering something new. Kelsey Mitchell was among the first to pull her teammates into a tight embrace, her face glowing with relief and pure happiness. This win was far more than just another notch in the record. It was a powerful validation, the proof that their relentless fight mattered, that every minute they'd fought and every ounce of effort they'd given could shift the course of an entire season. In that locker room, the past finally gave way to a new beginning. Indiana was back.
Y'all are a tough bunch of. I mean, I cannot even put into words how proud I am. It's like the toughness that it takes, like the gut checks that it takes. Like, y'all, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because we've been through all of it, right? Yeah. So it doesn't matter the circumstance, it doesn't matter the score, it doesn't matter the time. You always put your best foot forward. You always get to the next play. And it's always someone different.
Even Caitlin Clark, despite sitting out the game, was fully immersed in the moment. She spent the night on the bench, shouting encouragement, waving towels, and pouring every ounce of energy she had into each possession. After the win, she posted in all caps, FEVERSHOW, adorned with hearts and team colors, a a clear sign of how deeply connected this group had become. For someone forced to support from the sidelines in street clothes, her raw emotion spoke volumes about the unity that had grown within this team. Every player, whether on the floor or not, had their fingerprints all over this moment. The locker room didn't look like a team celebrating a lucky break, it looked like a family that had earned every bit of it. The road ahead would be tough, but the Fever had already proven they weren't here just to compete. They were here to fight.
You actually just referenced it twice. It is Indiana. Dropped 2 of the 3 games to them this year, but you haven't seen them since late July. What excites you about that matchup?
That they haven't seen the releases yet. They caught us when we were at a bit in turmoil. Not only that, they whooped us one of those stretches. So, you know what? We'll buckle in, hone in where we can, and take care of business.
Indiana knows exactly what's waiting for them. They've already survived 6 injuries, questionable calls, and the crushing weight of elimination pressure. Now, the true giant looms, the benchmark every team measures itself against, the Las Vegas Aces. But Indiana's victory wasn't just about advancing to the next round. It felt like the rebirth of a franchise that had been chasing a single playoff series win for nearly a decade. But for tonight, Indiana showed the world that faith, fight, and resilience can carry a team into history. Let us know down in the comments how proud you are of the Indiana Fever. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications so you never miss an update. Click the video on the screen now, and we'll see you in the next one.